Good morning, everyone. Hope you are well. So today's learning is dedicated in memory of Leah Bas Bible, Ben Yomen Akiv, Ben Shlomo, Rabbi Yaakov Tzvi, Ben David Aryeh Sachs, Sephora Feigele Bas Ruben Boraku, Casimir Shalom Ben Elili, Bena Bas Bible from Rosh Hashanah Bas Yaakov Shmuel, Caleb Bela Bas Henoch, Yirmiyahu Chir Ben Moshe Eliezer, Sarah Malka Bas Ben Yomen Shlomo, Yechir Ben Yeshua Levi, Abba Mordechai Ben Moshe Katna, Aryeh Ben Shimon. Wish all of their respective families long life and only simchas. Good morning, everyone. Hope you are well. Today is part 2 of the discussion about what is an argument for the sake of heaven. When is it correct to persist in arguing with someone and when not, right? I know John Chart always likes to say that there's a magnet behind the husband, behind the wife's head on the fridge, which says, "Yes, dear," which one's meant to say whenever there's any type of argument because she's always right. But we mentioned yesterday, and I just want to clarify before we move on, there is an idea that there is an argument where it would be correct to persist, an argument for the sake of heaven. There is another argument which is not for the sake of heaven, okay, and which is destructive. What's the type of argument? When is one involved and engaged in any type of dispute where it will persist? So what we mean by persist in this context is there's 3 explanations. Sofer Liskayim means it will have a constructive, good morning, David, it will have a constructive outcome. In other words, both their respective views, the first explanation is both the respective views of the litigants, of those arguing, will be remembered, right? Even the one that's not adopted. Remember, eventually, if you've got any type of argument, one view is going to be the dominant view or the view that is followed. You can't follow both views if they're opposing. But the other view, what we are saying is an argument that is for the sake of heaven and is going to endure forever is one that the other view is also going to be remembered because it has validity, it has basis, okay? Because they're both arguing for the sake of heaven. They're both pursuing the truth. It's not about ego, it's not about self, right? It's about them having a clear understanding of the Torah. That's the first explanation as to why both views would endure forever. The second explanation is that the disputants themselves will continue to live. What happened in the case of Korach when he fought against Moshe? He was eventually, we know he was swallowed up. The earth, there was an earthquake, the earth opened its mouth and swallowed him and his disputants up. And that was because, they were completely based on falsehood. Very often, they say that, truth will always endure, right? Truth always comes to the fore. And therefore, very often, those that have been based on on falsehood, you take all the tyrants of the world, the Hitlers and the Stalins and the Mussolinis, right? Their argument, their dogma does not continue to exist, right? It doesn't endure. It's they and their arguments are wiped off the face of the earth. And the first thing is that when we say that both of them will endure, it means that even the one who's arguing, let's say I'm arguing against David, and David is proven to be the view that we're going to follow, right? I was arguing with David, so I will also endure in that my whole goal, my whole purpose of arguing is to find truth. So if we've clarified the issue, right, and we now know, that David was right, then for me, the whole principle that we are searching for is truth, and that's what will endure. So, it's like, I guess, let's say there's an argument about VAR, right? An argument about whether a ball crossed the line or didn't cross the line. Okay. Now, once you take that photo, right, or once they've gone to they've looked several times, did it cross the line? Didn't it cross the line? Right, 1966. Once they've decided that it crossed the line, that's the end of it. Everyone, they may be disappointed with the result, but at the end of the day, they want the game to continue. They want the right outcome, right? And if it's clear that the ball crossed the line and nobody saw it or whatever it is, then at the end of the day, that is the correct outcome. So a person, they say that, I think, who was it? It may have been, there's several people that I think have said this. One was Mandela, I think another, it may have been Churchill. A few people are ascribed to the saying that holding a grudge is like putting poison in a cup of tea and drinking it. So if a person is so absorbed with jealousy and hatred, and that's what's driving them forward in their argument, then at the end of the day, they are going to destroy nothing else but themselves, right? Their argument will not endure. They will not endure. And you see it, don't we? We see it in our own society where you have someone who is absolutely obsessed with this argument, with this vendetta, and they don't live. They cease living. They become completely, absorbed around this argument, and they lose any sense of life. So very much a Korach perspective. Okay. In fact, here we said that an argument for the sake of heaven, an argument that was for the sake of pursuance of truth, was Hillel and Shammai. The beauty about Hillel and Shammai is we know that they were so respective of the each other's views. Their grandchildren married each other. That was the love and admiration that they had one for another. There was nothing personal about their arguing. And that's what you've always got to ask yourself when you get involved in any type of argument, be it with family, be it with friends, be it with a business partner, right? Whatever it is, how do you feel at the outcome when there is an outcome? Are you relieved? Are you happy? Right? Or do you feel the same way towards the other person? Or has it created a wedge and a distance between you? Let's go on to the next Mishnah. Apologies that we are not at the usual time. Please God, next week schools are back to normal. All the davening times are back to normal. And I would hope that next week we'll be back to 9 a.m., something like that, 9 or 9:15 in the morning. We'll advertise it. Looking forward to that. Okay, so which is a Kolamazakis Rabim Enchet Baliada. So if a person is trying in life to influence the masses, right? They're trying to do something for the benefit of the community, the benefit of society, right? And a person like that, the more that you do, the more likelihood that you are going to make a mistake. Okay, think about it. If I sit like this, with my, just sit in a chair doing nothing, then I'm not going to do anything, and I'm not going to put myself in a vulnerable position of making a mistake. But if I do something, the more I do, the more people I'm involved with, the more likely is I make a mistake. Says the Mishnah, we recognize that you're making yourself vulnerable for the good of the community. You've got the right intentions, and therefore you will always have the opportunity to repent for any wrongdoing. You'll be able to make amends in life. Very often we find ourselves, saying, well, why do I bother? Why should I even bother? All I do is get grief. All I do is get criticism. Why should I put my head above the parapet? What's the point in trying to do this thing when I'm, just become, public enemy number one? So the idea is that firstly, you're benefiting people for the future, and secondly, if you make a mistake, if you transgress, if you make an error, you'll be given the opportunity to repent and to put it right. Okay. Next point. But if you lead others astray, then you will not be given the opportunity to make amends, to repent, to reform yourself. What do I mean? There's one thing in you doing something wrong. The worst is where you persuade other people to do the wrong thing, right? In other words, birds of a feather. You decide that safety in numbers. I'm going to make sure, and this is what Korach in fact did. Maybe this is why one Mishnah follows the others. Korach made sure that he banded together a group that would ensure that he wasn't going to go down on his own. He was going to take everyone down with him. And that's very often the case in history by so many tyrants and demagogues. They try to wield power by increasing the numbers involved, and thereby ensuring that they're not going to go down on their own, safety in numbers. what this mission is saying, if you were the one who persuaded and misled other people, not only did you make a mistake to err is human, but if you enabled and persuaded and cajoled others to make to err and to sin, then you will not get given the opportunity to repent, because you have led others astray, right? So that's a terrible thing to do. Moshe Zakov Zikis Rabbim, and the example is Moshe was merited to help others, to increase their performance of good deeds and mitzvot, and therefore Zuchus Rabbim Talabo, and therefore he gets the merit, right? He gets the credit, not just for his good deed, but for the other things. This is the point, okay? If I persuade other people, if I inspire other people to do the right thing, then not only does the reward in the next world accrue to me for what I've done, but for everyone else's good deeds, because they only did it because I, as it were, inspired them. Give an example. Captain Tom Moore, okay? Unbelievable. Now, when he did his campaign, right, he intended only £1,000. That's what he wanted to raise. But think about the millions of other good deeds that resulted of people distributing money, or of people contributing 32 million. And then as a result of that, that money being used to save lives, to help people, all that reward is going to come to him, because he didn't just do something on his own, he persuaded others. So where we persuade other people to do the right thing, not only do we get rewarded for what we do, but we get rewarded for all the good that results from what they do. That's point number one. Obviously, the reverse is also true. If you persuade somebody else to do the wrong thing, then regrettably, you are going to be credited with the, I don't know if it's the right word, credited with the punishment for all the bad that they do. They'll also get punished, but you'll get punished, severely, because you've led others astray, and therefore it's only as a consequence of what you have done that they have done the wrong thing. And that's basically the rest of that Mishnah. Okay, so it's not necessarily what we do, as it's not necessarily what we can be doing something and can be completely unaware of what's going on around us. Let me give you a little example. We don't realize the influence that we have. We think it's only great celebrities or great philosophers and thinkers that are able to influence people. So there was a man that came to the Western Wall. He was a cowboy. Okay, he was from Texas, knew nothing about Judaism whatsoever, and he comes to see the spectacle of the Western Wall. I don't even know if he was Jewish. Anyways, and he sees a religious-looking man who's praying very intently, a chassid who was praying by the Western Wall very intently, very quietly, and he was very taken. He saw this person as being very sincere. It's the way he imagined it, and he was very inspired by that conduct. He went back to Texas. Before he left, he found out, all about. He didn't ask the man, but he found out from others, what is this guy? Why is he wearing those clothes? Which group is he from? He went back to Texas, found a synagogue where there were similar types and stripes that were praying there as the man that he'd seen. He goes into the dean's office and he writes out a check. I don't know how much it was. I think it was $500,000, a ridiculous amount of money. And he said, I want to give this check. And then they said, listen, we're happy to take the check. Of course, we're always happy to take the check. We need the funds. But why are you giving so much money? And his response was telling. He said, I was there and I was inspired to pray myself by the conduct of this guy that I never knew, but he looked a very religious guy. And I want to, in his merit, I want to give to your institution. And the dean said afterwards to other people, apparently, that, after 120, this chassid, this young man, is going to go up to heaven and he's going to get his reward. And then all of a sudden they're going to bring across a reward of, countless thousands of mitzvot from Texas. And he's going to say, I'm very sorry, I never went to Texas. So why are you giving me all this reward? And he's going to say, and they're going to say to him, God's going to say to him, no, you never went to Texas. But when you were praying at the Western Wall, a man from Texas saw you and was so taken, so inspired, that he emulated your ways and gave that money to a shul like yours. And therefore, it's because of you that these other people receive this money, this charitable donation, and therefore all the mitzvot that they have done should accrue, should be merited equally to you. So we have no idea. We have no idea the repercussions of the actions that we do in this world. And my point is that is good and that is bad. Never underestimate the impact that we are having. Good morning, Harry. Good morning, David. The impact that we are having in the world around us. They tell the story. He came to our shul. You may remember him, Harry. Dr. Ivan Lerner came, and he had a number plate. I think it was Mitzvah 1 or Mitzvah 613. One of those American, really Jewish, one of those really Jewish number plates. And he got stopped one day. He told the story in public, so I can tell it, that he got stopped one day for speeding, and he got a ticket. And he was very upset. And he was rushing somewhere. He apologized, but the officer gave him a ticket. And he told his wife that he was planning on changing his number plate. And the wife asked him, what's the story? As wives do, they know there's something up. And he told her the story about being stopped and being a rabbi. He didn't think it was appropriate to have that number plate and to be driving occasionally in a slightly irresponsible way. So she said to him, rather than change the number plate, change yourself. Again, rather than change the number plate, change yourself. Because then people, as a result of seeing that number plate and seeing you, are going to be inspired to do the right thing. And also think about the other point. Whether you'll change a number plate or not, you're still a Jew. Whatever you do, you can't hide from that. You can't get away from that. You can't escape from that reality. And therefore, you might as well work on yourself to do the right thing so that you are able to inspire everyone around you. Okay, we're going to have to stop there. I'm just going to do a quick memorial prayer. Adonai Lamim Zacha Es Nishmas Lebas Bible Ben Yom and Akiv Ben Shlomo Rav Yaakov Ben David Ari Tzipora Feigelos Ruv Baruch Okat Meshalom Ben Elali Ben Bas Bible from Mishashan Bas Yaakov Shmuel Kele Ben Bas Henach Yem Yalchi Ben Moshe Leza Samaka Bas Ben Yom Shlomo Chia Ben Yishua Levi Aaron Mordechai Ben Moshe Katna Ari Ben Shimon Shalchu Leilamam Bagan Eden Teimenu Chasam Lachim Balarachamim Yasmim Seitukan Pablo Lamim Veyitzlo Basachim Shasam Anna Nachlasam Yanuchu Bishalam Amishkavam Ben Amar Amen. Early start tomorrow, and then next week, please God, we are back at the regular time. Kabbalat Shabbat is also this Friday, Thursday night Parsha Shir. Looking forward to seeing you. Keep well, look after yourselves, and we'll see you in the week. And if you're able to, whenever you feel safe and you are safe, come back to shul.